everyone. It is Tony Will. I am back with another phenomenal episode of Women In, and I can't wait for you to meet my next guest. But before you meet my phenomenal guest, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women from all walks of life and the people who uplift them. Each episode features incredible voices from my world, sharing stories that spark inspiration, challenge the status quo, and remind us that empowering women empowers everyone. This is a bold, curious, and uncensored space where disruption is welcome, forward thinking is encouraged, and change is the goal. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers, not just for us, but for the next generation. Whether our paths cross professionally or personally, these conversations matter. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of connection, growth, and the people who are shaping our world. And this woman is one of them. Mary Ricciardi, founder of Warrior Strong Wellness. For over 16 years, Mary has dedicated her life to empowering others as a board-certified holistic health and life coach. Her journey took a profound turn in 2013 when her 15-year-old son was diagnosed with childhood cancer. After his passing, Mary faced overwhelming grief and physical health challenges, including adrenal fatigue, brain fog, and severe gut issues. With the encouragement of her husband and a deep desire to honor her son's legacy, Mary turned her pain into purpose. Drawing on her expertise in health and wellness, she began researching natural, clean ingredients that could support healing and well-being. In 2017, she founded Warrior Strong Wellness with a mission rooted in integrity to create high-quality nutritional products while funding childhood cancer research. Today, Mary continues to inspire others through her work, blending compassion, resilience, and a commitment to holistic healing. Her story is one of turning heartbreak into hope and empowering others to live stronger, healthier lives. Hi, Mary.
Hello.
It is.
Wow, that's quite a bio there. I should probably shorten that.
It's funny when it's read back to you live. It's like funny and like, whoa, in a good way, but also like, that's me.
Yeah.
Humbling, right? Humbling is a word, because that's who you are. That bio is you.
Yeah.
So I like to start the podcast outside of the bio talk. First, introducing my listeners to how you came into my life or how we came into each other's lives. It always serves as a great reminder of you never know where connections will form and saying yes to said connection. So how were we introduced to each other?
Well, we were introduced through my daughter, Cassidy, who is obviously a big part of my life and my business. Also, she does my social media management, but she's my daughter and she's one of my mentors and actually one of my most inspiring people in my life. So I am very proud of her in so many ways.
Yeah, this is really cool. I want to point this out. And I didn't even think about this until you and you were answering this question. So this is the first mother-daughter duo I've had on the podcast, separate interviews outside of my two daughters being separate guests on the podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
How cool is that?
That's so neat.
And you were telling me before we hit record that you were listening to her episode with me, Cassidy Owens, and tell the audience what you had said to me about like hearing what she said about you.
Oh, well, Cassidy had just said some really nice things on your podcast about me, and it really encouraged my heart, to be honest, because, I think as moms, we're just the hardest on ourselves, aren't we? We don't ever, I guess we need to hear that more often, and I think kids do their best, but it's hard, to not give yourself that full, I don't know how to say it, like the best, you're doing okay and you've come a long way, but when you hear it from your own child, it's really meaningful and it means extremely a lot to me. So I was touched by that and I almost started crying and I was just like, oh, it just really helped me to remember that, I have come a long way. So sometimes we're not as easy to see that in ourselves,
Oh God, as a lifestyle coach, yes, because I'm helping other men and women see that their progression as they reach whatever goals they're trying to achieve. And with me, it's usually substance related, reducing or removing alcohol or drugs, and alcohol is a drug, but we can get into that.
I didn't realize you were a lifestyle coach.
Yeah.
That's basically what I am. I call myself a lifestyle expert, but I have all these different certifications, but my passion primarily is lifestyle, just learning how to live that forever, consistent, perseverance type lifestyle. And it's always been my passion, but I think after everything I've been through, I really have that passion even further because it's helped me personally so much, to do that. So
Yes. Oh yeah. You and I, well, when I think it was, when I was interviewing Cassidy, and then I was doing some other interviews with women in your sphere, Jessica. Anyways, they all mentioned that you and I, from Chasing Brighter, that you and I,
oh yeah, Jessica, I
yeah,
love Jessica.
you and I would have a lot in common because we have very similar outlooks on lifestyle, health span, lifespan, and just, living the most fulfilled life by
Hmm.
taking care of yourself now, not when you're, not later, like when
For sure.
you're in a
I mean,
requirement.
movement is it's such a thing that people say nowadays, but I really believe it truly, like movement is medicine. And if you just continuously move your body in the way that you're able to move your body, everybody has different able bodies, but like some people can't walk, but they can, swim, or they can stand up in a standing machine because my brother is actually in a wheelchair, and he used to be the most fitness guy, but I always get careful with what I can say when I say move. You have to move. You have to move. Not everybody can move, but I think that you can do whatever you're able to do. And even if it's in a stand-up machine to make your body moving, or doing arm weights because that's all you can do, that's what I preach, because I've found that helps me not only physically but mentally more than anything. Mentally is why I am such an advocate for moving your body and getting some movement in daily, and strength training primarily is my favorite, but
Yeah.
walking is also super amazing for you,
Yes.
so.
Now I'm gonna take us back because I just want to point out one more thing that, so what I loved about what you said about Cassidy and listening to her and as her mom and now coming on the podcast, what you described there about how it made you feel listening to your daughter say what she did is one of the, giant reasons why I launched this podcast, because hearing women and men lift other important women up in their lives, regardless if they're related or not. You two just happen to be, but it's just, and getting that feedback to say, God, that meant so much to me, and that's, I don't know that we take those steps often enough. And so originally, when I started the podcast, it was just going to be about women in sports, because my day job, I'm the general manager of a men's AA professional hockey team. I'm very much a minority in that space, and so that's where it started. But I was like, no, we're going to make this bigger than just sports, and so I
That's so cool.
opened that up. So I say all that because this is so unique, and we're going to get into obviously what you do for a living. But I want to, again, going back. So tell me about, like, I guess, career and motherhood all in one. Like, when did you start a family? Were you working, and tell me from the beginning, because because there's so much that's come out of where you're at, because you and I are pretty darn close the same age, if not the same age, like in midlife, and we have so much more ahead of us, I can tell.
Yeah. I'm
So,
54.
okay.
I'm 54, but yeah, okay, so I'll try to like make this as short as
Yep.
possible.
Yep. I know.
But so back, if you want to go way back,
Yep.
so it's just me, Cassidy, and Cooper. Cooper and Cassidy are my children that I gave birth to. And then I have two stepdaughters, which I don't call them stepdaughters, they're my bonus daughters, and they're just my daughters as far as I'm concerned. But it was just Cassidy and Cooper and I came from a divorced, I got divorced very early in their life, from a marriage that was just not great. And so I decided to empower myself and move on and do the best I could with my life. And several years later, I think it was like 8 years later, I met my husband, who I'm married to now. And we blended, and we have the blend. When we met, our children were, Jenna was 4, Julia was 6, Cooper was 7, and Cassidy was 9. So they were all super close in age. And I was an insurance agent at the time. I had my own agency, and I was working full time as a single mom at the time, and then we got married about a year and a half later. And it just seemed like we were at that stage in life where I didn't have enough time in the day because I was running, 4.5 children to different places. And I just had this like overwhelming feeling inside all the time. Like I was overwhelmed. And my husband was just like, you know what? I think for our stage of life, I think it would be much better if you sold your insurance agency. And I had no problem doing that. At first I was a little nervous because, that single mom mentality for a second, like, oh no, don't take, my control away. But I was actually very close to Jesus at the time. And I was really close to my faith. And I just realized I'm not in control. I'm just going to take, this surrenderness. And I'm going to say, like, let me just be a stay-at-home mom. And then he's like, why don't you do some of your passions? So I decided at I think I was 39 or 40, and I became a fitness, personal trainer, and I started doing life coaching, and it was literally the best time of my life. I loved it so much. I loved helping women. I loved that feeling where I could see transformation in people. Mostly I realized, it started with fitness, but a lot of it came from the heart. And that's where I went back and did life coaching and did all this other things. But food, all the things. But mainly it was just like that time where I was so excited because I would get up at 4:00 in the morning, meet these clients, work with them, then get home by 7, take my kids to school, do some phone call, appointments, and then go pick them up. So it was like a perfect life. It was literally my dream life. You know what I mean? I had no stress because I was passionate about everything I was doing. It was the best time. And all my kids were doing great. Everything was fantastic. It was like, woo, when you could just be living in your best life ever. And then my son Cooper, he was 15 years old and he was just starting high school. He was in 9th grade. He was in basketball. He was just amazing. He was doing great. He was finally just starting to realize that it's not, because in junior high, he was goofing around a lot. I was always on him, and I'm like, okay, listen, you gotta get your shit together, kid. And he was finally doing that, and he was doing so good, and he was, finding really good friends, and he had all these really good best friends that I trusted, and he had a great life. And he was really doing well in basketball and all that. And then it was around January of 2013 when he was 15. He just started feeling sick all the time, and he would call me at school, which wasn't like him, and he'd be like, Mom, can you come pick me up? I don't feel good, and it was just really, really a surprise that we found out that he had leukemia. Mm-hmm. And to say that it was devastating is beyond. I mean, you just don't, it was almost like I was living outside of myself. You know what I mean? When they said those words, and I even said, is that cancer? I mean, that's how little I knew about childhood cancer. I didn't know that childhood cancer was so prevalent. I didn't know that the government could care less about it and that they didn't give any research to childhood cancer. These are all things I learned later and, of course, have such passion for now because I can't imagine, them not caring about that. It's such a huge thing. And so we just learned so much in such a short period of time. And then we went right into it. I mean, it was literally, okay, now you got to go to the hospital and start chemo tonight. We got it. Well, actually, first they had to put his port in and then, and I had to go home and tell my daughter and, call my other daughters. And that was devastating enough, and then we had to get started right away in the hospital. It was just like, okay, here's this terrible, terrible news. And let me just throw you into the fire. I mean, it was literally like that, Tony. It was the most, there's really still to this day, no words to describe it. And I have always, even when I was really involved in church and in women's groups and Bible study and all that, there was this word that God had always given me, and it was warrior. And he just told me I was a warrior. We had some kind of a thing one day, and they were saying, oh, what word does God give you? And that was the word. I mean, I heard it clear as day. This was probably 5 years before this time. And that was when I went into warrior mode. I mean, there is no one like a mama when their baby's not feeling well, right?
Oh, yep.
Your baby's not feeling well. You're like, okay, we got to get this taken care of. But when your baby's really sick, mm-hmm. It's devastating in your heart, but also you have this whole nother, it's like when the mom picks up the car and throws it off a kid. That's the way I felt to be honest, Tony, like the strongest I'd ever felt in my life. And yes, I was a fit woman at the time because I was a trainer and all those things. But my heart and my mind, everything grew in minutes. It was like this protective bear. And I was a warrior. And I started wearing that hat every day. I'm like, I'm a warrior mom. I'm not a cancer mom. I'm a freaking warrior mom. And my child is a warrior. And so I just started telling everybody that I met, you're not a cancer mom, you're a warrior mom. And I was able to encourage other moms along the way. And I've met a few ladies in the hospital. And then I started this like group on Facebook called the Warrior Mom Group, which still exists today. And there's a lot of ladies in there that really love it. And they can talk to each other. And it was just this sense in my head, like, I have no one right now. I have no one that understands what I'm going through. And it just made me feel so alone. And I'm like, I'm going to create it because that's how I am. I get really fired up and like, I've got to do something, like I'm a justice type driven person. And I just started doing things, and that helped me during the process. Right. So, also I had this single mom mentality. And so I had such a hurt for that. And I kept thinking, thank you, Jesus, for letting me have my husband right now, who we basically got rid of my career. So I had nothing to worry about as far as what if I had my insurance business, and it was just like everything, God knew what was coming. And he was like, I'm going to clear the way so you're completely ready to be in fight mode and warrior mode for this time in such a time as this, right? And so I was, and I literally was a warrior for 3 years straight. And during that time, I also started a little foundation, and I shouldn't sound like it's like no big deal, but I did start a foundation. But it was, for me, like it was something that God had called me to do during that time, because I would be sitting there next to these mamas all day long, and some of them were single. And Tony, they'd be telling me things like, I can't pay my power bill.
Yeah.
And I have to be here, and I have to go to work. I'll say, I'll sit here with your child. I will sit here with your child. And I was like, how much is your power bill? And then I'd come home and tell my husband, I'm like, sorry, I had to pay this girl's power. And he's like, how much was it? I said, it was 500, whatever it was. And he's like, okay. He's like, I get it. He's like, no, we're blessed. And you help them. And then he was like, I think you should start a nonprofit. Because I was paying people's bills. And then I was like, no, what? But I couldn't say no, because I put myself in that spot. And I was like, what if I was single mom right now? I would never be able to do this.
Yeah.
I would have to leave my poor son while he's getting, chemo treatments. So anyways, God just kind of made me a warrior and helped these other ladies. And also we all became very close, and, then Cooper ended up doing so good. He went back to high school it was 2014. He was doing so good. He went to like prom. He was doing all these things. He had a girlfriend. One of the little childhood cancer children, his dad said, hey, does he want to be a basketball coach for the team? So he got to do that. And that summer of 2015. And he was so excited because he always wanted to be a coach. He wanted to be a coach for his career. He wanted to be a professional basketball player or a coach. And so he did all that. And then he ended up getting diagnosed with MDS, which is a second form of cancer, which happens quite often with children, because the chemotherapies, especially in adolescence, they have no idea what they're doing half the time. The research is not there, and we need to have more research. And so he got that, and then he ended up getting like a even worse form of it's called AML, which is like another form of leukemia. And I took him from where we live in Vegas, which is a terrible place to have a sickness, because we recently have just learned that in 2028 they're going to be building a children's hospital here, which is a blessing, but they have nothing like that here. So I had to take Cooper to City of Hope in California, and we fought for our lives. And unfortunately, Cooper lost his life, and he went on to be healed in heaven in March of 2016. So this March will be 10 years since he's passed, and I am a lot braver about it now to be able to talk about it. It's been just recently I'm able to do so, but he was one of the loves of my life, and I was really hard. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I have so much compassion as a mother myself. And I don't. I was in the room when my mom died in February, and I'm gonna go out on a limb. Were you with him when he
Oh, of
passed?
course. Our whole family was in the room with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a family affair. We knew, I mean, that was the hardest part is, when my son asked me, Mama, am I going to die? And I said, yeah, honey, you are. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you know. But the good thing is that he knew Jesus, and I know where he is. He's in heaven, and I'm going to see him again someday. And also, he had a knowingness about him that was different than me and you. I mean, he just knew that he was going to be okay, and I do look back on it now, and I see it so differently, Tony, because I'm still involved slightly in the childhood cancer world, and I mean, there are so many kids that are just still fighting their third, fourth time, just this devastating pain that never ends their body. Because after childhood cancer, they still get other things. Sometimes they get other cancers, sometimes they get other sicknesses. And I think that just wasn't the plan for Cooper. He's at peace and he's in heaven, and I feel okay with that now. Of course, I want him here. Of course, I want him here. But I also know where he's at, and I know that I'm going to see him again someday, and that gives me as a mama ultimate peace. And I know, like, I feel him around me all the time. I see his picture right now smiling. It brings me so much joy because I know that he's okay. He's not suffering anymore, and that's not what I would want for my child. It was hard enough to see him suffer for as long as he did suffer. So that's that. And then, then the hardest part came, to be honest.
Yeah.
Then the hardest part came. There is no pain. There is no pain worse than losing your child. There is no pain. And it's not a pain that goes away. And it's not a pain that gets better in time. It's, I may seem like 10 years almost later that I've got it all together. Oh, hell no. I mean, every date, every diagnosis, he has 2 diagnosis dates, his day, of course, the day he passed is always hard, but we made it a point to always go away that weekend just so I could just be at peace in my favorite place. We like to go to Hermosa Beach and just relax and have fun and maybe have a glass of wine, which I don't ever hardly drink, and, just kind of relax and just know that I did everything I could possible to keep my son alive, and he did all he could. And just kind of letting that go every year because it's never going to get easier. I thought it would, but it never is going to get easier. His birthday is a little better now because he also shares that with my best friend. So we have fun that day, and I embrace that day with her. But it's just the hardest thing you're ever going to go through. And I have such passion or compassion for mamas that have lost their child.
Yeah.
And because everybody handles it differently and everybody has a different journey. And so that's really a part of my heart. And I do have like specific things that helped me, and they did help me. And, one is my faith. Second was after about 5 years, my beautiful daughter Cassidy said, Mom, who's a huge advocate of therapy, which I am not. I'm not a huge advocate of therapy. I think it's because I have a really strong mindset.
Yeah.
And I thought I could just fix it with that, which I was doing pretty good with it. And as a mindset coach, I was like, no, I don't need anybody telling me what to do. And so I had to let that ego, go aside. Right? But like, I also felt like mindset was probably 90% of it at most times, but there was just that problem with me, which is what I was having trouble with, was the triggers.
Yeah.
And so because I had so much PTSD, Tony, I mean, you would not believe the PTSD, because I went through a lot of this, you got to realize, by myself. Because we lived in City of Hope. My husband came every other weekend. He brought the kids. They all worked together as much as they could. And when we were in the hospital here in Vegas, Cassidy would help so much with the girls and bring them to school and things like that. But it was like a team effort. And I don't want it to sound like it was all me, but I really was the one that, they brought into the room and said, this is going to happen. And I was there by myself.
Yeah.
And so it was like these traumatic events that only my brain knew about. And the things that we went through at City of Hope when he was really in bad shape was on me and my brain. And it was a lot to hold. And all these triggers would come up and, memories. And so I learned that subconscious mind is not a mindset type thing. And so I had to go to therapy, and I went to a specific therapy called EMDR therapy. And EMDR therapy, I forget the name of the words, but it's like rapid eye movement, something or other, where I had to I hold on to these little things that buzzed in my hands, and she would I'd close my eyes and she'd have me talk through. It was talk therapy, but it was like remembering exactly what happened. And then she would do the EMDR therapy, like buzzing technique. And it was so strange. And like when I first did it, I was like, I have to be honest, I was like, what is this crap? I was serious. I was like, really, seriously, what is this? But then I would have this like overwhelmingly, and thankfully it was a long drive home, and I would release, and I would cry during the actual therapy, but then on the way home I would release like tons of tears. And I was like, how are there this many tears in my body? Like seriously, like from the day he passed, that whole year I cried, and then 5 years later I'm still crying this much. It was like buckets. It was like buckets of tears. And it was crazy though. After I did it for 9 months, about every week, a week, and sometimes 2 times a week. And every time it would hurt just as much, but then 2 days later, I would have this like overwhelming lift. And it felt like, when someone puts like big weights on you and you pull them off every time. And before I knew it, like by 6 months, I was like, what is happening? Like I felt like a new person. Like I felt like, I don't ever want to say I felt like my old self, but I did feel like a new, renewed old self in so many ways. And so that's what I did. It helped me tremendously. And then of course the supplements that I have, and those are, mainly were ashwagandha. It tremendously helped me during grief, and I still take it to this day. So, there's a lot of supplements that I take, and one of the biggest things is, of course, exercise, walking, strength training, Pilates, things like that, so that I could renew my mind. And also during that time, to be honest, even though I was super faith-filled and loved the Lord, I had no desire to read my Bible, which isn't like me really, but I just kind of was angry, I was angry at God. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you taking my son away from me? I was bitter at that time. And so I couldn't even read scripture. So that wasn't even helping me. Now I love it again. Thank God. But I really have to be honest, like that part of me was kind of stripped away at that part in my life, and I don't have any shame from that, because I know that God understood my pain, because he understands he understands the pain. He lost his own son. So I was just like, you know what? I think he's going to be okay with me just doing my thing right now, But it was good. It was a good time of healing, and I really went through that. Probably for the last 5 years, I've been just in healing phase. The first 5 years, it was just terrible. I have so many pictures of me just looking like just devastation on my face. And I was like, someday I'm going to look at this and be like, yes, you're not like that anymore. And I was hoping that, but I didn't think it would ever happen, to be honest.
How did that affect your marriage? What's your husband's name, by the way?
His name's Anthony.
I
have literally the best husband in the entire world. Like God found him for me for a reason. He knew exactly the type of person I should be with. And, thankfully I have the most beautiful daughters. They're such good kids. They're such beautiful people. They're all so different. They're all just amazing, wonderful women. And they're my mentors, to be honest. Like Cassidy, she's dynamic. She's powerful. She just makes me so proud. She's so driven, so determined, and I definitely think she gets her discipline from me.
Very smart too.
I'll take that. I'll ownership that.
And she's an entrepreneur as well. And
yeah, she has that entrepreneurial mind like me, but she also she just has that discipline, which is so important in life. I think that discipline hat is way less, people don't think about how important that is, especially when it comes to workouts and exercise and things like that, because you're not going to want to work out. So,
Nope.
you got to have that discipline. My daughter, Julia, has 2 children, and she's the one that has my grandkids, my grandsons, and I watch them sometimes, and they're just like the best. They're the most biggest blessing because they're both boys and I get to have my boy fix, and they're the sweetest things, and she's such a good mama, such a good human. And my youngest daughter Jenna is she's really super cool. Like, she has this like eclecticness to her. She's so passionate and emotionally just sweet, like the kindest person. And she's a tattoo artist, so she uses her artistic ability, which I know she gets that from her daddy. He's like that too. So it's just a really cool family dynamic. But when it comes to my husband, there is no one greater. There is no one greater.
Yeah, a true
than him.
partnership. Yeah.
He is literally the best person in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, he loved me from the minute I met him. He loved me and my children just like his own. My children were his, and I actually did the same with his children. They were just our family. We were family. Like, the minute we met, we were like, we're supposed to be together forever. It was just so weird, but it was at the same time so comforting. But it took me a while to find the right person. I was 34 years old when I met him, but and I got married to Cassidy's and Cooper's father when I was like 20. It's kind of like, why was I thinking? But at the same time, I love that I have my children.
I get it, Mary. I too have blended families. My husband now is 3. He's my 3rd husband, but we blended a family, and I totally get it. And it's not off. It can be hard if because I blended a family before that, but it can be hard if people aren't really ready or understanding what it's like or what you need to do, or it can be pretty darn effortless if everything is aligned, core values, expectations, how to co-parent, because there's generally ex-spouses involved too. And Josh and I have been able to do the exact same thing. And
that's so good. I'm so happy for you, because that is hard. I mean, there's a lot of blended families that fail, and we knew that. But first of all, we were very involved in making sure God was part of our family, and that was really, really important to me, as my faith was my husband was Catholic and I was Christian, and we kind of blended that. But he loved my church, and he was like, yeah, let's bring here, because the kids could go in their own area. It really worked for us. But when you go through something like we went through, there are definitely times when people break up from that. But my husband was just so, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like he was my hero, and he just did whatever needed to take. I mean, he was the only one working. He was really, really, making sure we had to pay our bills too. It was extremely expensive because insurance only covers so much, and we made too much money to be on anything that, like a lot of the cancer families are on Medicaid and things like that, which we weren't able to be that. So there were times where we had to pay, if I had to go to chemo 4 or 5 times a week, I'd have to pay $100 copay every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a crazy amount, and he never complained. He never said one thing like, this is hard, or, he just was there to support me. What do you need? And people that we had in our lives, a lot of the church friends and things, brought us food. It was just so community driven and loving over us. I mean, I would never have been able to get through it without all of that. But him alone, I mean, just never pressuring me. I don't think we had sex in a year, the year that Cooper was sick. And never once did he say, oh, I wish we could, never once. It was just that.
You're not thinking about sex when you're...
No, and he wasn't either, to be honest.
No.
Because, I mean, Cooper was his son. And I mean, Cooper loved he didn't have a very good relationship with his dad. I left him when he was really young. Cassidy does. But, and there was no bad feelings. It was just, he just thought of Anthony as his dad.
Yeah.
That was just who he did. So when he was passing, it was important to him to have his name. So we always use Cooper Ricciardi for his name, because that's what he wanted. So I said, whatever you want, baby.
Yeah.
because your memory is going to live on. We're not going to forget about you. And
Well,
that's my biggest thing is always remembering him and keeping his memory alive. So.
yeah, and I want to talk about that because the foundation itself, let's talk about the foundation, how much money you've raised, how the supplements tie into that, because it sounds like a portion, if I'm understanding correctly, go to the foundation. And so,
Well, actually, I had a foundation. I
okay.
don't anymore, Tony. So when I was in that certain time, like that 3 years, I had a foundation. It was called Light of the World Foundation, and we just helped families in Vegas financially, emotionally, and that type thing. One
Got
of a good friend of mine kind of took that over, and her foundation is in Vegas, and she does that now, and she goes into the hospital only, and she just helps them. So not so much financially, but she helps just bring joy to their lives and bring them things, and it's called Kindness Conquers Foundation. And so she goes in and she does that, and her name's Carrie, and she's a dear friend of mine, and she heard me speak one time, and she had a passion for childhood cancer in the families, and she doesn't have a child with cancer, thank the Lord, but because of that, she just had this passion for it. So she can do it. She can go in the hospitals and do all that. But after I lost Cooper, I just wasn't able to do that. But I did have this passion still for wellness and health. But I was just like a lump on a log, to be honest. I had no motivation. I didn't even want to work out myself. I could never motivate anybody. I'm sorry, it just wasn't possible anymore. And my husband, the sweetest guy, he's like, I just hate for you to not use your passions because you are a dynamic woman and you should be doing this stuff and you should be, I know you'll persevere, but I know this is a hard time, but I really want to encourage you. Like, what would you be able to do? And I was like, nothing. I literally felt that way. I mean, to be honest, I had nothing inside of me anymore except for grief. But he said, well, what about supplements? Because I had mentioned supplements before when I was, serving my clients. They would ask me to refer them. And once I became a holistic health coach and all that, I knew how to what would work for what. But I was always like, geez, this has crap in it. This has crap. Nothing had good quality ingredients. Nothing had any, they all had fillers and all kinds of junk in them. And so I was really passionate about that. So I would try to find different companies that I liked and refer people to them. So he knew that. And he was like, why don't, you try to start a supplement company? And so I was like, yeah, right. I have no way. I can't even, the mental capacity around that I don't have. And of course he did, and he's like, I will. And he's such a great businessman. And so he's like, I will look into all the details and find a good manufacturer and all the things. And he knows my type of integrity. I'm like, I want it to be like this, And so he was doing that background work for probably about 6 months. And then he brought it all to me and he's like, this is what I think we can do. And he said, I really think you should do it. And he said, also, I know you have a lot of passion for childhood cancer. We could tie that in somewhere. And that's when I was like, the light bulb went off. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. I can do this for Cooper. I can do this. And so I started Warrior Strong Wellness, and it was about 1.5 years after Cooper passed. I should say we started it because my husband definitely was the business side of it, my CFO in the background doing all that work that makes my brain go, no. Yeah. I'm like creative, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. There's no the businesswoman side is more like I have to ask him. But I do it now, but I wasn't able to back then. But it was just this passion inside of me, okay, what can we do to give to help that childhood cancer research side. So I give back to Baldrick's. So St. Baldrick's is a foundation that they primarily work with childhood cancer research. They give grants to doctors. They do all kinds of things that help, childhood cancer research grow, which is the most important thing right now because there isn't a lot of it and it still hasn't changed, sadly, even after 10 years after I lost my son. The year that Cooper passed, 18 other kids passed just in my city that I knew personally.
Wow.
Okay, so it's not something that's just like, oh, that happens every now and then. It was really bad back then. I think it has gotten a little better, but the research side of it is huge. So with Warrior Strong Wellness, our supplements, we give back. every day to childhood cancer research. And since then, we've given back close to like $78,000 to childhood cancer research to the St. Baldrick's Foundation, and we just primarily give to them. And then in September of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, we usually give to Kindness Conquers a little bit too. So it's very mission-driven company. That's the way I want it. And I also am super meticulous with the supplements I choose and what's in them. And so we don't have a huge line of supplements yet, because that's not as important to me as being critically, making sure what's in it is what's in it. And like, for instance, a really good example of that is greens. Greens products are probably one of the most yuckiest, crappiest products out there, because most people, as everyone knows, supplements are not really regulated. They are regulated a little, but not to the point where, when you see things like proprietary blends and whatnot, things like that on most greens, you should put it down. Because you have no idea what's in there. So what was important to me is to get my greens certified organic. So that means that there's no pesticides, there's no fillers, there's no junk in there. And then every single product has to be listed on the label, and that's what's in the product. Everything is certified organic. So things like that just matter, but they cost a lot more.
Yeah.
And so because we give back to childhood cancer, I don't have a huge line of products yet. We have like several, but we're doing fine. But it's just, little by little, I'll grow it. And
tell me the ones you do have, because that speaks volumes. You mentioned ashwagandha. So if someone were listening to this and they're skeptical about supplements because it's kind of the wild, wild west. It's getting better. But I take supplements too, and mine are specific to the ones I am really focused in on and a researcher for brain health, because my mom passed from Alzheimer's. And so after watching someone die like that, I'm like, everything in my power, in addition to how I eat, exercise. And so there are some, just not very many supplements, but some that I take for brain.
Well, my company, we primarily work with longevity product.
Yep.
And also gut health, because as you know, the brain and the gut are completely tied together by the vagus nerve, right? So when we have a super bad trauma that happens to us, it happens in our gut, but it goes right up to our brain. So things like that work in conjunction. And so ashwagandha as well as bone broth both help with your gut-brain connection. Those are the first two products that we had. And that's what primarily got me out of the gutter. I mean, to be honest, like I did research on ashwagandha and then I made both of those products. And when I started getting my gut was such a mess from that trauma, that long-term cortisol being up, all the things. So ashwagandha is a miracle in so many people's lives, because it not only helps with grief and anxiety and things like that, but it helps you sleep. And it also helps to heal and that vagus, that whole nerve that goes around your body that makes you feel like that fight or flight.
Yeah.
And when you're in fight or flight for 3-4 years, 5 years, 6 years, it's devastating to your adrenals. So my adrenals were all out of whack. My gut was terrible. I couldn't poop. I couldn't, I wasn't having any kind of, desire to eat. So my stomach was like, it was just a mess. I atrophied. I had no muscle. So all those things were being repaired again. And so the bone broth collagen actually heals and seals your gut, and it rebuilds the gut lining, which is so important, because if you have a lot of food in your belly that's just going right through, like as if like you see like a net and like little balls are going through it, that's what's happening when someone has a leaky gut. It's not absorbing into your body, so you won't be able to build muscle, you won't be able to go to the bathroom. There's just so many things that go on with it. So those two products alone are just life-changing. When it comes to brain health, creatine.
Yeah.
Creatine, girl. I know you're taking it probably.
Yes.
But creatine is life-changing for me. And I love the word life-changing, because I don't think I would come out with a supplement if it didn't change my life personally. So I wouldn't give it to someone else if I didn't take it myself.
Right. I'm glad.
I wouldn't, I'm giving this to myself, my family, I want it to be good. And the creatine is, it's something new, that I really did a lot of research on myself. It's really become popular lately. But the reason it's become so popular lately is because the research that's out there has changed, and they literally said they were giving it to people with Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that, and they're changing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That makes me hyper. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so cool, because I also have friends that have moms that are struggling with Alzheimer's, and my grandfather passed from that as well, and it's in my back history, and I don't want that. I want to be strong. I want my brain to be strong. So I take creatine for my muscle strength, as well as my brain, strength. The other ones we have are the multi-collagen. That one's a fun one. So we have two. We have a bone broth collagen and the multi-collagen. I take 1 scoop of those each day in my coffee. The bone broth is the one that really helps your digestive system. The multi-collagen, which is the blue container, that one helps with your hair, your nails, your muscles, fibers, your joints, all the things. The bone broth collagen does that too, a little bit. Bless you. The bone broth collagen does that a little bit too, but it's more so focused on the gut, and I would say pain type stuff. Like let's say you kind of constantly always have like a little lower back pain, it can take that away. And so feet pain, any kind of bone joint type pain, the bone broth. But I always suggest it for people to take up a scoop of each a day, because then you're getting like a little bit of both. They're both health supplements, but collagen is proven that it's just so good for you, especially as we age. It helps with the wrinkles and the fun stuff, the nails, the hair, but more so the joint health. Because as we age, our joints aren't going to have as much collagen. So it's going to make you have those aches and pains. And when I take that, I never have that. And I work out a lot, like 4 or 5 times a week. So if I can tell a big difference if for some reason I skip or something, And then we just have the vitamin D3K2, which is highly important for all women to take, men too, but just helps with your bone health, because a lot of people think calcium when they think of bone health, but unfortunately that's really misinformation. I don't take a calcium supplement unless your doctor says that you need to. I wouldn't. Because the D3 and the K2 together, mixed together, that helps with your bone strength and keeping your arteries going, and so that doesn't pull away from the bone. And so, that's one that I would suggest getting a blood test before taking, or take it and then get a blood test a few months later, just so that your body is different. Everybody's body absorbs supplements differently, and so I always recommend getting blood tests every 3 to 4 or 5 months, because me personally, I absorb vitamin D very much fast, so my body didn't need it every day. So I take it about 3 times a week, and the one I have is a 5,000 IU, which is high. That's a high amount, and it's great, especially if you're getting sick. Like if I'm getting sick or something, I'll throw an extra one in, because it does kind of help with your immune system. And it was like during that time when we had the, where you needed a lot of vitamin D. So, but that one is good for, all of my supplements are good for people that are over 40, pretty much. I mean, my daughters take them too. I'm not saying that they're not for younger people, but as we get older, we need more supplements, because our bodies just don't absorb as much. And it's just helpful if you take some supplements too. Yeah. The greens are obviously good for just the main reason that we all need more greens. I just throw them into my smoothie every morning when I put other greens in there, and berries and things like that. You can drink it alone. It's gonna taste like greens, because it doesn't have any sugar or junk in it. So it's a greens powder. It's not a greens that has, fruity watermelon tasting. You shouldn't get a greens if it has that, to be honest, because it's going to have that. If it says natural flavors, it's not natural. I know it's crazy that it says natural and people think, oh, it's natural, but it's not.
Right.
It's not natural. So labeling, I'm really careful with that too. And Cassie's like, Mom, you should do more videos about labels, because people don't understand how to read them, and I will, because I think that's the biggest thing with these supplements is you got to really look at what's in them, and that the fillers alone. I mean, a lot of the supplements out there, like the main ones that you can get at Costco, like the collagen you can buy at Costco. I'm not going to say the name, but, if it's a big, huge container and it's $30, yeah, I'm sorry, it's not collagen. It's probably about a little bit of collagen, and all the rest is filler. It's got to be, because I know how much it costs, and there's no possible way.
Well, here's a little.
It's crazy. I mean, like customers of mine, and I'm very honest with them. They'll tell me, I'm going to go switch to this, and I'm like, you go. You
Yeah.
call me when you're ready to come back because I
Right.
know.
You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. So here's a fun little fact. I'll use protein powder as an example, just so
Mhm.
everyone's aware, because I don't have a label in front of me. But if there is a protein powder, and I'm going to do easy math, if there is 50 grams in a serving of the powder, and
Mhm.
then you go to the label. So you go to label and you look how many grams is actually protein, and it says 30. That means 30 grams of that scoop, and I know you know this, Mary, I'm explaining to the audience, but
Yeah,
30
no, no.
grams of that scoop is protein. The other 20 is filler. It's
If they
other,
have filler in it,
yeah,
if they have filler.
if they have
Not
filler.
all protein powders have filler, but the thing is that's the part. And then I'm very sensitive with my gut. So now that I've fixed it, I mean, I go to the bathroom every single day now.
Yeah.
Hallelujah, which we all should be doing, even if maybe more than once a day. And I never did that for years, even before Cooper got sick. So my gut was probably damaged and then it got worse during trauma, which it happens. But you have to protect your gut. And all of these little things like gar gums and, gums, anything that says gum in there is a filler. And it's also something that makes it stay top shelf
Yes.
happy. So if you have none of my products, none of my supplements have a expiration date of more than 2 years. So that's a big, huge thing. Supplements should not have a 10-year or 5-year, that's not good because there's something in there that's preservatives that is going to affect your gut.
Yeah, it's like a
So,
Twinkie.
yeah.
Like the Twinkie.
And
What is
then,
the shelf life of a Twinkie? Like 10 years is something ridiculous.
right, things like that, exactly. And the other supplements we have are the magnesium and the sleep. And so recently, I'm going through menopause, and we do talk a lot about that. I'm not going through menopause. I'm in post-menopause.
Yeah.
Because menopause is really only 1 day, and then once you don't get your period for a year, it's post-menopause, and that's where I'm at. And I went into post-menopause early because of everything I went through with Cooper. I went into it when I was 45. So I haven't had a period since 2015, which is kind of crazy because I'm 54 now. But I really went into it we head on with grief. It was terrible. Grief, hot flashes, naming it, everything. So one of the biggest things that really affected me was sleeping. And the sleep thing is huge because if you don't get sleep, it affects everything else, right? So I was like, I have to figure out what can help me to sleep. So now I do a whole deal. I do a whole thing for sleeping. One, I hardly ever drink alcohol. And I know you don't drink alcohol.
I do not.
I do not drink alcohol anymore. And I used to be I've never been a big drinker, but I would have my alcohol on the weekends with my friends or whatever. I stopped doing that because I would notice that I'd be up at 3:00 in the morning, hello, all up all night. And so that was one of the big things. And I also got on HT, which is hormone therapy.
Yep.
And I think that also affects you with your alcohol. You can't drink it really anymore after you take that. Because I had learned that I had no estrogen, no testosterone, and no progesterone. So I had to get some put that into my system again, and I feel much better with that. But the sleep supplements have helped tremendously, which is the L-theanine and epigenin, which is in our sleep supplement, and then the magnesium, which is, it has all the glycinate and the, what other one is in there? I gotta look at it. I'm not good at remembering things very well, but glycinate, it has the magnesium L-threonate, the glycinate, and the taurate. Yeah. So it's fantastic. I take 3 of those. I take 1 sleep. I also take another L-theanine because me personally, I need a lot of L-theanine. It helps me tremendously with, I struggle with not falling asleep so much, but waking up and then my brain just starts going crazy. I don't know if people have that problem. I'll be thinking about things from, back in the day. Because grief likes to haunt you at night too. And so L-theanine is a miracle for me. It makes me stay asleep. If I do have to get up to go to the restroom, I'll go right back to sleep, which is fantastic. And then sometimes I do take a little bit of melatonin before I go to bed. I don't have melatonin with my line, but that helps me if I feel like I'm having like a little too much energy. I'm a very energetic person as it is, but like when I go to bed, if I feel that way a little bit, just to get myself to sleep right away. There's nothing wrong with melatonin. People get really weirded out by it, but I take all of that before I go to bed. Plus, I take ashwagandha. So I take ashwagandha 2 in the morning, and I take 2 at night. But I always suggest somebody take 1 to 2 in the morning and 1 to 2 at night, because you want to make sure your cortisol levels are being balanced that way. So you should take it twice a day. And that is what I've been doing. And I got this little sleep ring thing that's called a Ring-Con. It's the cheaper version. You don't have to pay a monthly thing or anything.
Avora.
And it's literally showing that I'm sleeping fantastic now. Like I have a lot of REM, deep sleep, everything. So that's all because of those supplements and stopping drinking, really, because alcohol is terrible for sleep. Terrible. So
it's terrible. It's a toxin. You get me going. I'm hyper passionate, borderline even evangelist about living alcohol free, because it's a toxin. It's ethanol. It's just
it's terrible for you. There's no safe form of alcohol.
None.
And I've really noticed that lately, and that's probably something that I've changed my mind about completely. Like I'm very, very maybe once a month I'll have something with, and one of my best friends she loves wine. I like wine too. Like I'll have 1 glass, and I mean literally a real like tiny glass, and I'm good, but it's only if I really feel like it, and I'll drink it early. I try not to have it like 4 hours before bed, because I'm wired. I get wired from it,
Yeah.
So
This has been, we could keep talking, but you have provided so much great information about supplements, and then of course what led you to this, and your personal life story, and the loss of Cooper, and your amazing daughters, and Anthony, and just what you've done, the money you've raised for St. Baltic's, the 78,000 plus. Thank you for all the work you're doing and turning your pain into purpose. And it's just an honor to meet you. And I'm going to be going to your website here when we wrap up. So speaking of that, where can people find you, find your supplements, learn more about what you have to offer?
You can find us on social media at Warrior Strong Wellness. We're on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, I think, and Pinterest. I don't know. Cassidy is my social media, so I try not to go on social media, to be honest, very often.
You got a great
so you can find us out there, and I do videos, and I've been doing much better at doing videos. To be honest, I didn't do a lot of videos for quite a while because of everything I went through, but lately I've been feeling much healthier in my mind and my body and my spirit. So I've been sharing a little passionate stuff out there again. You'll see videos about childhood cancer a little bit too, and then also, of course, health and wellness, and talk about our supplements. So please join us there in the socials, and then our website is www.warriorstrongwellness.com.
Awesome. Well,
and I also have a personal page too. It's Mary L. Ricciardi.
Okay.
And and we put some stuff on there video wise, as that's my personal Instagram. So.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Oh,
it was so fun talking with you. We could do another one. We could talk about alcohol.
Yeah. Oh,
we both have passion about that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think I'd have to hand you the mic, and you can interview me on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking with you.
Same. And if you guys are looking to connect with me, I'm not hard to find. The hockey side of my life is at kwings.com. And then everything else we're talking about, alcohol, my TEDx, the book coming out next, or in the early 2026, the podcast, all is at tonywill.com. Social media, I don't know, just put my name in, you'll find me. So until next time.